M-I-C-H-E-L-L-E for Michelle, and Myers is spelled M-Y-E-R-S.
Black Cancer, B-L-E-C-K-C-A-N-C-R. Black is the acronym. Cancer because I'm born in July.
Casey, S-E-A-N-C-A-S-E-Y.
Alicia, just Alicia, A-L-I-S-H-A, and that's just my name.
Introduced to spoken word poetry when I saw it on TV. I was watching, it was either when I was about to give birth to my oldest daughter or I had just given birth to her. And so this was in April of 1998 and I was watching BET. And there was a show on at that time called Planet Groove. And you know, it was like a dance show, but they'd have featured artists for each program. And so that particular day, usually it had musical guests, but that particular episode they had poets. And so it opened up, the show opened up with Saul Williams. So my introduction to spoken word poetry was seeing Saul Williams do one of his pieces, and I was like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. And then there were a number of other spoken word poets on that particular episode. There was also Jessica Care Moore, and Mums was on there, and I think one or two other poets whose names I can't remember. But basically they were the members of the New York Slam team at that particular time who had done so well at the National Poetry Slam. So that was the first time I was introduced to spoken word poetry. And after that I was basically doing what I had done when I was a youth. I got a journal and I just started kind of writing poetry that I meant for myself, just for myself to sort of see. And then probably about 2 years later, I saw there was an announcement for a performance workshop, a writing and performance workshop that was being offered by the Asian Arts Initiative. And so I signed up for that. I had never heard of the Asian Arts Initiative before, but signed up for it, and that's where I met my poetry partner, Katsy. And I was writing, most of what I was writing was spoken word poetry. And so, you know, that's kind of how it you know, evolved into, you know, what later becomes Yellow Rage, and, you know, my collaboration with Katsy, and et cetera, it all sort of begins there. The producers of Def Poetry really liked us, so they asked us to come up to New York and audition, because they were putting together the first ever live Def Poetry Jam show, which was going to be at the HBO US Comedy Arts Festival, February of 2001, which was taking place in Aspen, Colorado. So they asked us to come at the end of December of 2000 to New York to audition. So we did, and we were selected to perform in the first ever live Def Poetry Jam show. And that show, so we went to Aspen, Colorado in February of 2001, the end of February, beginning of March of 2001. And so we only had I'm a Woman Out of Flavor. That was the only poem we had. So we were going to be in a show with Jessica Care Moore, Steve Coleman, Black Ice, who's also from Philadelphia, Taylor Molly. And so we were like, we're going to be with all of these like really seasoned spoken word poets who have been in the National Slam competition for many years. And we were like, we need to have another poem. So that's when we wrote Listen Asshole. It was actually a piece that Katsy had originally written, and so then Setna and I decided to do our own verses to add to Katsy's, and then that made up Listen Asshole. So that particular show, the one that we did at the HBO US Comedy Arts Festival, that was filmed. Stan Lathan, who was the director for all the Def Comedy Jam shows, he came and he filmed that. He also filmed the Def Poetry Jam episodes too. He filmed the live show, and that became the pitch. That's what they used to pitch to the HBO producers to get the HBO show actually approved. Over the years, I think there has been a struggle with spoken word poetry and spoken word artists in general of gaining a sort of legitimacy from certain folks, right? Whether they're more, literature-centered folks or whatever the case may be. I think that spoken word poetry has always sort of had to combat this idea that it's not real art, or something. It's just people getting on stage and ranting, I always looked at my poetry as a form of activism. It's been my way of speaking out about issues that I wanted to raise awareness about, maybe initiate change in some kind of way, get people motivated, organizing and that kind of thing. That part of what I've been trying to do in terms of my movement as an artist over the last couple of years is trying to figure out ways that I can be more actively giving back into various communities. So the human trafficking is one particular community, working with youth is another, being aware of issues that are immediate to the Asian American community. So I've been involved with police brutality, particularly the Fong Lee case in Minneapolis, and trying to raise money at the time when they were actively pursuing their legal cases with the Minneapolis Police Department and stuff, trying to raise money to help them with their legal expenses, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, and using my art to do that. So that's the responsibility, the task that I'm trying to set for myself. The poem that's going to be published in APIARY is called She Homebound, and it is a poem that I wrote about my mother. Its inclusion in the She book is basically because all of the poems that are in the She book speaks to a particular story that is supposed to either examine, illuminate experiences that women have, and so even though they might be specific instances or situations or what have you, there's supposed to be this universal element to all of the poetry. And so this one, She Homebound, is really kind of a story that is trying to talk about my mother's journey from her experiences as a young girl growing up in Korea to coming here, and her own sort of conflicted or ambivalent feelings about home, that my mother has never really felt at home anywhere. Even when she was growing up in Korea, that didn't totally feel like home for her, because she didn't really grow up in a family structure, and then when she came here, she was alienated from American society and culture due to language, but also cultural issues and not having any family here. And in her feet, this yearning for crossing a threshold that she could call her own. And her feet bore the ache down deep as she walked through life searching for a place to die. But this place could not be the land in which she was born, for restless feet had carried her from post-war Korea, fatherless and therefore nameless, a might as well had never been born existence, on child-sized feet that bore witness to moving spaces to which she had no connection. And when the sky finally fell under the heavy hand of a cruel uncle and heartless stepfather, her bare feet carried she and her younger sister along suspiciously shifting mountain roads, seemingly filled with growling horangi, tigers, to stand on a train platform to Seoul, singing songs for candy and sleeping on benches, trusting the kindness of passing strangers to get them on the right train to somewhere other than here. But the sister's feet did not bear the same kind of aching, and so retraced footprints in retreat, with an exhaling breath reserved for a resigned return to the only place the sister had ever known. And since she could not call this home, she let her sister go and kept moving forward, ever yearning. I want to die in the place that I had lived. But knowing that she had not yet lived, her naked feet bore her across the fluid earth, seeking refuge in solid ground that they, her feet, could root into. And it was this primal connection to the land that made her feet thirsty and therefore impatient. And so they clung to the first bit of rocky ground to set underfoot, and being tired and lacking the defiant, restless spirit she once had, she relented to her aching feet and set down roots in this cold soil, almost barren of water and light. Yet she willed herself to stretch upward and outward, and home grew from her fingertips. And beneath the encircling canopy of her arms, a dandelion daughter and a dandelion son managed to spring from the precarious soil. And as the seasons came and left, the winds ever relentlessly pushed and moved the dry, unreliable dirt around her, eventually exposing her cracked, brittle, malnourished, and long-forgotten feet. When the dandelion daughter and son bore witness to this, they cried salty tears that only made her feet more root-bound. And as the winds howled heartlessly around them, they tried to dig her out, but soon understood that she would only leave this place if she were ripped up or cut away. So in the time they had left, they massaged her aching feet as best they could, until the winds became too powerful, and the dandelion sun blew away on wispy seas that wandered aimlessly on precocious air currents. The dandelion daughter watched her brother until he was out of sight, then turned to she and pleaded in desperation, "Please, just pull up your feet and walk away." But even as she heard her dandelion daughter's words and felt the land beneath her crumbling away from her aching feet, she only knew what she had always known. I want to die in the place that I have lived. And with that whisper, she blew her dandelion daughter away with the hopeful wish that wispy seeds would find firm footing on solid ground somewhere other than here.